Unfortunately, a lot of the discussion is Joseph Ossai, who had the late hit on Patrick Mahomes out of bounds there on the final drive of the game. Ossai had been awesome throughout the game. I mean, his name kept popping up as like, hey, tackle by Joseph Ossai, tackle for loss, or pressure by Joseph Ossai. And then unfortunately for him, it comes down to that final play where he makes the mistake. And it was a massive mistake to put the Chiefs in field goal range. Harrison Butker ends up making the 45-yard field goal. But here's what Zac Taylor had to say about that Joseph Ossai play, because he was obviously shaken up and emotional after the game, biggest game of his life, and for it to come down to that. But Taylor had this to say on that late hit that ended up resulting in the Chiefs winning the game.
It didn't come down to that. You know, there was a lot of other plays that we just missed out on, and they made one more play than we did. It's hard. You know, this is emotional. We worked really hard to get here, and, you know, any play that people feel like it's left out there, you're going to take it hard. And that's we want guys like that this means a lot to. They care about it, care about their teammates. Joseph's comes to work every day, man. He loves ball. He loves being a part of this team, and it didn't come down to that play.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, it didn't come down to that play. I mean, it's the obvious, right? So one of the biggest things that I believe is the secret to all victory lies in the organization of the non-obvious. So what is the non-obvious, right? And there's a lot of debate about what is the non-obvious. And when you listen to the broadcast, they don't know what the non-obvious is. But I'm going to give you a non-obvious right now. You got 4th and 15. Okay, Burrow just got sacked. Kansas City called their last time out, 41 seconds left to go. If you're a head coach, you tell your punter, you tell your special teams, I want this fucking ball punted out of bounds. I don't want them returning it. I don't give a shit. I want it out of bounds. I want the ball out of bounds. What do? They fucking drive it down the middle of the field. So the only way the Chiefs could move it 30 yards is with their return game, because that offense wasn't going 30 yards. And Moore takes it 29 yards. And so then he gets, then the next play he throws for 6 yards. They call their last time out. And, if that punt didn't happen, if he don't put it down the middle, if he punts it out of bounds and the ball lands on his own, 30-yard line or the Chiefs 34, they're not going to score. They can't protect well enough to be able to score. So that's non-obvious. I've said it when the Jets played. The last play, they punted it down the middle of the field. Like, why is it so hard for people to understand that the reason you have directional punters, every punter can move the ball to the right, to the left, or down the middle. And that's a situation you can't allow the ball to be punted down the middle of the field. Like, it's obvious to me. It's not obvious to everybody else. Like, nobody mentioned it on the broadcast. You can't punt it down the middle of the field. Like, that's a violation. Then Zac Taylor's a great head coach. Is he really? Well, why did he let the ball get punted down the middle of the field if he's such a great head coach? I'm asking you. Like, how is he a great head coach if he lets that happen?
It's an egregious mistake, and it's letting the details slip through the cracks as far as I'm concerned there with Zac Taylor. And
because we evaluate Zac Taylor, people evaluate Zac Taylor that don't know anything about the game. They don't know that. That's a critical mistake. Like, that's because he's so busy looking at his play sheet, he doesn't understand the game.
I thought the interesting point was brought up earlier in the broadcast when Jay Feely, who was a former kicker in the NFL, he's a part of the broadcast. He's down there to talk about the kicking game. And he mentioned these kickers did not practice any field goals that were long, like 55, 60 yards during pregame warmups. The target line is around the 32-yard line for about a 49, 50-yard field goal. So with that being in mind, like you mentioned with Zac Taylor, he should know, all right, let's prevent these guys from getting in field goal range. How do we do that? We prevent yardage on the return. And that's kicking the ball out of bounds because it's going to require more play since Kansas City was only down to one timeout left. And that's the part of that where it's like, okay, once they get that return, they now have a chance to maybe get inside field goal range and ultimately win the game in regulation. If you're Cincinnati, the objective when you punt the ball, get the game to OT, and they failed miserably in that.
No doubt. They failed miserably. And you can't allow that to happen. Like, you can't allow that to happen, right? And so you could say, okay, well, they probably would have had 6 more seconds. They probably would have had the ball with 36 seconds on the play clock to start their drive at their own, let's say, where did he fielded the ball at the, at the 20, I think
it was
he fielded
the
it at
30 or the 29 around there.
Yeah, I mean, so he fielded it there. So, okay. So add one more play, but they have only one timeout, and Mahomes can't move. He's scrambling. They can't get open. I mean, and so it's easy to blame Ossai for I mean, that kid played his ass off. That kid played hard. What I loved about it, if I were Mike Brown and Katie Blackburn Brown and anybody running, I love the fact that it meant so much to him. Mm-hmm. Like we didn't lose that game because of him. We lost that game for a lot of other reasons besides him. He helped us be in that game. And so, like, to me, it's for anybody to think that he lost the game for him is ridiculous, because what lost the game for him was the decision, once again, this is 2 weeks in a row now, just for the record, right? Mm-hmm. Mike McCarthy, we'll get to Kellen Moore later, but, not understanding that Wisniewski's the best punter inside the 20 in the National Football League. And so when we start that drive, and then this one, punt the ball down the middle of the field.
So he actually fielded it, Michael, at the 18-yard line. So it was a 54-yard punt to the Kansas City 18, returned it 29 yards to the 47. So this is something that they could have easily been backed up on their own 20 with a timeout left. I'm sure the Chiefs would have tried something because they have Mahomes at quarterback, but that's a long, long way to go to get into field goal range with only one timeout left in the defense, knowing that you're trying to get the ball down the field. So if you punt the ball out of bounds and say even at the 25, you would think that you should be able to get the ball and get the game into overtime and then have a chance to go ahead and win it there. And we would have seen the new overtime rules where both teams are guaranteed a possession there in the playoffs. You mentioned Cincinnati lost the game there. I also thought they lost the game once again up front on that offensive line. No. It's like everybody forgot just because we saw Buffalo's horrific pass rush against them last week. They said, oh, Cincinnati figured it out on the offensive line. No, those guys are still backups. There's still 3 starters who are out on that offensive line. They don't belong out there, and then they got beat time after time, especially in the first half when Burrow was sacked 4 times. I thought it was going to be the Tennessee game from last year all over again with Burrow in that line.
Yeah. And Taylor, I text a coach, former coach in the league, like, are you kidding me? He just got sacked and he went to 5-0 protection. Like, does anybody know you got to protect the guy? Now, they changed it during the course. They kind of got back to it. But, look, you knew going in that you weren't going to be able to block Chris Jones. You knew that. I mean, first of all, Chris Jones, I could think you could call him offsides on almost every play. His helmet's in the neutral zone damn near on every play. I don't know how he gets away with it, but he does.
He gamed the system.
He's a great player. He's a great player. And we all thought he would impact the game.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is like, how don't your offensive line is bad. How don't you have a run game that can offset that? He's got 17 rushes total in the game, and 4 of those rushes come from Burrow. Mm-hmm. And, Burrow took a beating. He took a beating. And I think, to be honest with you, I thought they were going to pull him out of the game on the play before the third, and he makes the throw on 3rd and 16. I think he got sacked. His head hit the ground. I thought he got up a little woozy. I thought they were going to pull him out of the game in that one. But because it was just a question whether he was going to get hurt. Look, there's nothing you could do about it. Nobody has a great backup left tackle. Nobody has abundance of guards. It's hard to find offensive line. I don't blame the Bengals for that. This is the kind of where they were. But you got to alter how you play based on what you have. And they lose Tyler Boyd. I didn't get a sense, did you, from the broadcast, were you getting updated on the injuries? All I got was guys were out. I didn't know what the hell happened to him.
I didn't know what happened. They mentioned that Boyd came back, and then after he tried to run a route, then he left, that it was his quad injury, and then that was kind of the last that we'd heard from Boyd. But I guess at that point, if he's out, they're like, whatever, he's out. Then we don't need to let these people know what the injury is. But it was definitely impactful when Boyd left the game, because then that's when they were able to kind of double those guys on the outside and then just let Burrow throw the ball to the tight ends and the checkdowns to Pirine and all that stuff, which are, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you'll definitely take that over Chase and Higgins making plays.
Yeah, I was not a big Pirine fan, but Pirine runs harder than Mixon. Like, Pirine runs harder than Mixon. Like, when they put Pirine in on the goal line, I was on the phone with somebody. I said, they're going to run it left, and he's going to move the pile. Mixon never moves the pile. Mixon didn't move the pile. Like, I was never a Pirine guy, but I was more Mixon. But I think Mixon wears out at the end of the year. I think he kind of tends to wear down a little bit. And he wasn't the same guy. Look, they have a hard time. This is the problem when you become a one-formation team like Cincinnati, when you're always in 11. that you don't have enough versatility. You don't have enough versatility. You've got to be able to say, okay, if we lose one of these receivers, it goes. And, one of the things I thought that was the chase play. If anybody ever wants to know the worst coverage to be in, watch that chase play. It's the Randy Moss, you can't cover a guy like that. When Randy Moss played, everybody tried to bracket him. You got him if he goes left, I got him if he goes right? And what happens if he goes straight? We both don't have him. That was the chase play. You got him, I got him, nobody's got him. They got a third down, they got a big play, they run zero blitz, and A, he doesn't get jammed off the line, and B, he separates the two guys covering him. I mean, that's just bad ball.
It really is bad ball, man. Jamar Chase, he's just incredible. Burrow, I thought, was really good despite the circumstances in that game there with that offensive line. And it was just a tough matchup here for Cincinnati going on the road into a hostile environment with a bad offensive line like that. Chris Jones just phenomenal, wrecking the game late. Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi. And for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.